What's up, everyone? Welcome to the FAA podcast. A lot of stuff going on. UFL playoffs. Jimmy's a new setup. Love it.
Welcome to the new home.
Very solid, sir. Yeah, so we got the UFL playoffs. Talking about USFL conference and XFL conference championships. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about NIL, the house settlement in the NCAA world, and then of course we got a couple transactions in the league, a couple big names getting moved around, and finish off the Panthers and the Ravens offseason recaps. So, starting off, USFL Conference Championship, the Panthers have ended the run 44-29 beatdown of the Birmingham Stallions in Birmingham. Yeah, Jimmy, you lone wolfed them. You lone wolfed both games, actually. But, yeah, I picked them to win the championship. I put my money on it right after Week 10 ended. I just thought the Stallions were dominating people. The defense was playing outstanding, and just ran into a buzzsaw on this one. And it was interesting because it was a game that we rarely saw from the Stallions throughout this 3-year championship run. Just self-inflicted mistake after mistake after mistake. I was live tweeting about this game and the XFL Championship as well. But it was just the same thing over and over. It was just a mistake. Tackling was horrendous for the Birmingham defense. They couldn't get out of their way offensively. Each quarterback threw an interception. Jamar Smith telegraphed an interception that Kai Nakua took back to the house. Forgot to put that on his stat line there. But, Matt Corral tried to come in and save it, and then he threw a bad interception on the sideline as well where, like Coach Skip Holtz was saying, it was one of those honey hole shots where you're trying to throw the ball in between the safety coming in from the inside and the corner that's dropping down into the flat coverage, into that cover 2 window there on the outside. And Corral threw it way too far inside, and Arnold Tarpley had a relatively easy interception there. But even then, Birmingham, it felt like they were going to come back. Like, they kept getting it to within a score, and every single time they did that, Michigan went on a long drive and responded with a touchdown. Props to Mike Nolan and finally winning against Birmingham coming into this one, 0-6, 0-7, including the playoffs. I don't know. They haven't set the line yet for the UFL Championship, but it's going to be interesting to look at that, see who the favorite is next week. Bryce Perkins, 80%, 238 touchdown, 8 carries, 34 yards, a rushing touchdown. And this game reminded me a lot of the Panthers defenders game because of the missed tackles. Bryce Perkins was he had grease on him or something, because the defenders just they would get him wrapped up and then just not bring him down. I didn't understand why they couldn't tackle him. That also occurred on the Xavier Malone or Malik Turner, I should say, long touchdown reception. Matt Corral, like I said, 48%, 147, 2 touchdowns, a pick, 3 carries, 18 yards, and a fumble. Jamar Smith, The starting quarterback in this one, not very good. 40%, 102, a touchdown and a pick. Most of those coming on a long touchdown catch there to Deion Kane, or long throw to Deion Kane, I should say. It was not a touchdown. He threw a longer touchdown to Jordan Thomas. Leading the game on the ground, Michigan running back Toa Taua, an excellent game. 21 carries, 85 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also caught a 5-yard pass as well. CJ Marable getting in on the ground in the end for the Stallions. But that was an issue all day for Birmingham. They could not get anything going on the ground, really, most of the day there. Deion Kane had a big day in the loss, caught 6 of his 11 targets, 124 yards. I mentioned Malik Turner from Michigan, just under a yard short of 100, caught 6 of his 7 targets, 99 yards, touchdown. 2-touchdown day for Birmingham tight end Jordan Thomas, 3 of his 5 targets, 39 yards. Those 2 scores. Davion Davis also catching a touchdown. Defensively, it's the guy that I mentioned that scored a touchdown, Kai Nakua, safety for the Panthers, 6 tackles, 4 solos, tackle for loss, 2 pass defense, and a pick 6. Don't have the yardage on that right now, but Panthers plus 1.5 went outright over 46.5 easily. Points galore in the UFL playoffs this weekend. The XFL Conference Championship, DC Defenders going to a league championship for the second time in 3 years. They also went to the XFL Championship game, lost to the Arlington Renegades in 2023 in the XFL's inaugural return there. 33-18 over the Battlehawks. And it was complete and utter destruction from the get-go. This one, even though it was a blowout just like the USFL Conference Championship, this one felt different. The Defenders started off pretty nicely. They had to punt on their first drive, but then they punted down. Battlehawks got a penalty, pushed themselves back to the 2-yard line. They did get a first down out of that. Then they had to punt though. And then DC started the scoring, and it avalanched from there because the defense was lights out. I think they sacked Max Duggan and Brandon Silvers 5 times. Strip sacked Duggan twice, recovered one of those, and picked Duggan off once as well. So it was just a masterclass by a defense that had been getting absolutely toasted, allowing about 26 points per game the last 4 or 5 weeks. And they were just really bad. And for the second time this year, Blake Williams brought that defense into the Dome in St. Louis and really just dominated the trenches on both sides of the ball. They were able to run the ball with Deion Jackson and Abram Smith, and then they were able to get to the quarterback and stop the run effectively. Jacob Sailors did run for 5 yards per carry, but he only had 9 carries because they got down so quickly. 2 scores, and really, the defense really only let 2 touchdowns in. The first touchdown of the game for the Battlehawks came off of a interception thrown by Jordan Ta'amu, and that a penalty on DeAndre Baker got him down to the 2-yard line, and was pretty easy to get Jacob Sailors in from there. But yeah, I was impressed by Blake Williams, and he's going to have to do it again next week against a team that's a lot tougher offensively. I was happy I was correct in this game. I tweeted out at right around halftime, or maybe even before that. I was like, at what point do you have to start thinking about Brandon Silvers, because this thing's getting away? It was only 2 scores, with I think 8.5 to go in the second quarter, but it was 14-0, and then Ta'amu threw a pick, and got the Battlehawks in the game. But yeah, they had to go to Silvers, and I do think it might have been a little bit closer had Silvers been able to play the entire second half. Only lasted, I think it was one drive, and got knocked out of the game by Joe Wallace concussion. So Max Duggan came back into the game, and they talked about it all game. I mean, his long delivery was very detrimental to him. That's why he got strip sacked twice. Ta'amu, though, 69.2%, 204, touchdown, a pick, 2 carries, 13 yards. Max Duggan here, 50%, 105, a pick, 8 carries, 33 yards, a touchdown, and a fumble. Brandon Silver, 60%, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Ridiculous one-handed catch by Hakeem Butler in the end zone. Deion Jackson had a hell of a game, 21 carries, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 7-yard reception as well. Abe Smith getting in on the ground, and I mentioned Sailors did as well. DC wide receiver Seth Williams, he led the game in receiving, caught both of his targets, 61 yards and a touchdown. That came on a long throw. That was the opening score, actually, for this game. And Hakeem Butler got in the end zone, like I mentioned. Defensively, I'm going to go with DC defensive end Malik Fisher. 3 tackles, 2 solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, a forced fumble. You got to give it up to Willie Harvey, though. We usually don't see that big of tackle numbers in the UFL because of the running clock and the limited amount of time possession-wise. So 15 tackles, though, 7 solos, sack, tackle for loss. Willie Harvey, good game in a loss. Of course, Matt McCrane. I was wary. He had come in not playing very well. He actually had the worst or the second worst field goal percentage in the league. BT Potter actually has the worst for Michigan, which is interesting. Those are the 2 teams that are facing off in the UFL Championship. They have the worst 2 kickers percentage-wise in the league. So something to note for Saturday. Defenders plus 1.5 went outright over 46.5. This one was a little harder than the USFL Championship. Had to get a touchdown there at the end by the Battlehawks to get it over. Or I guess it was over, actually. No, yeah, it was 48. The second touchdown there, or the touchdown by Abe Smith, I think, was the one that put it over. Anyways, do we want to cover this as breaking news, the transactions today, Jimmy, or do we just want to roll through into the other stuff?
Let's just roll through.
All right. Let's go to college news. Oregon wide receiver Evan Stewart suffering an injury feared to be significant. So could be big time news in the Big Ten in terms of who's really going to have an opportunity to win the conference this year. Evan Stewart, the number 1 option there for the Ducks this season, but former Texas A&M Aggie as well. But yeah, we'll see. I believe he is out for quite a while. I don't know if he's been ruled out for the season yet, but I do know it is a while. He will not be there at the start of the year. And of course, the big news in college football and college sports overall this week, the House settlement, House versus NCAA, has been approved. So a little bit of kind of Spark Notes on it. Back in the day, Spark Notes. People of a certain age will understand what I mean by Spark Notes. Anyways, so schools may begin directly paying student athletes starting July 1st. Less than a month. Student athletes will be directly paid by schools. $2.8 billion total payouts over the next 10 years goes to any college athlete who played at any point from 2016 onward. There is an annual cap limit for the current student athletes, I believe it is, of $20.5 million for the 2025-26 season, and it will increase each year as the deal runs. And of course, what's really fantastic for student athletes, they get this payment in addition to any NIL deals or scholarships or any other benefits they're receiving. So it is added on top, which is, I think, ridiculous when we talk about football and men's college basketball, and some women's college basketball as well. We already have quarterbacks making millions of dollars at the D1, P4, specifically SEC, Big Ten. So I don't really think they need any more. I do like it, though, that I think the hope is that it increases equality and coverage of other sports. There's a whole host of other sports out there, right? We got field hockey, we got swimming, track, tennis, gymnastics, whatever you want to, come out with. Ice hockey. We got men's and women's college hockey. So I think, or at least I hope that this money will be able to support more college athletes and bring to light more college athletes in more sports than just football and basketball. Anything from you on that, on the House settlement, to me?
No, not much really. I know, I've been paying a lot of attention to how this affects hockey, because hockey is very interesting because a lot of players that are draft eligible will usually go back to their Canadian Junior League, the OHL, QJHM, whatever. Quebec Hockey League.
Major Hockey.
Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, QMJHL. I blanked on the name. So, we're seeing a ton of recently drafted guys and guys going into their draft year who aren't going to make the jump from juniors to the NHL because of bylaws. You can't go to the AHL, which is the NHL's minor league system, unless you turn 20 during the season. So a lot of players, the big names out there are guys like Caden Lindstrom and Gavin McKenna and Porter Martone. There's rumors that these guys are getting offered six-figure salaries from schools like Michigan State and Penn State. Penn State's really wanting to spend money this year on hockey players. So it's super interesting seeing how this plays into other sports as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another big thing, I think people forget, Title IX is still a thing. Title IX, it essentially, I didn't read the fine print on this, but I would think that if they want to continue the purpose of Title IX, this would mean you're getting $10.25 million for men, $10.25 million for women. I'm not sure, but that is still something to consider for sure. UFL news. We haven't gotten the complete list of awards yet, but we do have the first major award handed out by the UFL. Michigan Panthers defensive back Kedrick Whitehead Jr. has been named the Special Teams Player of the Year. I don't really understand it, to be honest. He played 118 special team snaps, which I assume is a lot. I don't have snap counts offhand. But what I will say is you had other guys, or at least one guy that I know, returned a kick for a touchdown. Isaiah Henney had probably the play of the year, I will say. Anything is possible. 108 yards, kick 6, where he returned the short field goal for 108 yards to the house against Birmingham for the Memphis Showboats. But you also had, I think even a guy on Whitehead's team, Xavier Malone, has been a fantastic returner this year, both punts and kicks. Chris Rowland for the DC Defenders is also another guy that has been an excellent kick and punt returner. So those would be 3 other guys that I would put above Kedrick Whitehead, because I just, you don't really notice a ton of special teams unless it's like a big tackle or a return or whatever. And maybe I'm wrong on Kedrick Whitehead, but I don't know. I would have put the other 3 guys ahead of him in my mind. NFL news. We have the Colts ownership structure was announced today after the passing of Mr. Irsay. His 3 daughters will be taking over the Indianapolis Colts organization. So at the top and the face of it all will be Carly Irsay Gordon. She will be the owner and the CEO. Casey Foyt will be the executive vice president, and Kalen Jackson will be president and chief brand officer for the Colts. So it'll be a triumvirate of sisters at the top there, which I think is pretty cool. There's not, you don't see that many female owners in professional sports, and I think it's really cool. And I think they're going to do a great job, obviously. Family-run organization, and I know nothing about any of them. But yeah, I like it. And there's definitely going to be someone that comes up with a cool name for the, they got to have a cool name, for the 3 sisters up top. I don't know. Something with a triangle, I feel like. I don't know.
Trying to think. The Sisters of Fate. No, I don't know. Something like
that. The triple threat triangle. I don't
know. The Triple Crown, because the Colts, the Triple Crown. We're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere.
And we can get like a triangle and then put 3 crowns on the.
Yeah. Now you're seeing the vision.
And the Colts logo in the middle. Yeah.
Exactly.
I like it. Let's trademark it.
Trademark it. Anyone listening, this is our idea first. Don't take it.
All right. A bunch of big name transactions going down this weekend, and today. Today, 2 big releases. The Packers have released corner Jair Alexander. Tried to trade him. I thought he was going to get traded because he was a big name. Obviously, the salary implications was a big sticking point by a lot of the teams. And Jair, if you happen to be listening, sir, the state of Pennsylvania will have you. Both the Eagles and the Steelers, I still think, need corners. The Carolina Panthers would love to have you as well. All 3 of my teams want corners still, I think. And there's a starting spot available in Carolina, by the way. So, Jair, we'd love to have you in nice, warm Charlotte. A lot warmer than Green Bay.
I don't know if you'd want to be saying that. I'm going to be honest. I've seen him a lot over the last 3 seasons. He's been shit from a butt lately. He has not been good. And I think he's had some antics off the field He's really put the team in a bad spot often, and he constantly doesn't play against the Vikings because of a mysterious injury that suddenly shows up every time they were about to play the Vikings. I'm just saying maybe he's not cut out for the big time matchups.
Well, that's why the off the field stuff. That's why I think that Pittsburgh would be good for him. That's one of those cultures that no tolerance kind of thing with Mike Tomlin. So I don't know. Speaking of the AFC North, the Bengals, they released linebacker Jermaine Pratt today as well. Similar situation, wanted to get a trade, and Cincinnati couldn't find a trade partner. And this guy, I don't think you can say the same thing as Jair. I don't know of most of any off-field issues with Pratt, nor is there any performance issues. He's been top 10 in tackles every single year the last couple.
Yeah, I like him. I kind of surprised. I mean, I know the Bengals are kind of in a tough spot with money. I'm kind of surprised. Pratt has always been kind of that consistent, like, linebacker. I think he's had some, like, injury concerns, and I think that's why the Bengals are a little worried about his long-term viability. Plus, he's 29, so maybe there's concern with age. But I mean, he did play all 17 games the last 2 years, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they're worried about. I guess it's just a money thing.
Yeah, and I would not be shocked if we talked about the Colts, and I would not be shocked if Jermaine Pratt ends up in Indianapolis Colt with Lou Anarumo being the new defensive coordinator there. And did I have linebacker for Indy? I did, and see, Indy did not draft the line. They didn't fill my linebacker need in the draft, which was my third need for them. So I like it. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, the Triple Crown's first big move.
Yeah, and the Colts have plenty of money. They have the second most money available still. I think it's the Patriots and then the Colts. The Jags getting a deal done today. They signed punter Logan Cook to a 4-year, $16 million deal. I don't have too much analysis. Logan Cook, he's a solid punter, though. And Jacksonville and Liam Cohen are happy to have him for another 4 years.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
All right, go ahead.
Punters are people too.
Yeah. Well, kicker was my number 2 need for the Colts, by the way, because they released Matt Gay. So
my guy.
I know I hate that he's kicking in the NFC East now. The couple of big name signings, and I actually said this last show, but we got the numbers now over the weekend. So the Steelers have signed Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers to a 1-year, $13.65 million deal, $10 million guaranteed there. I think it's 15 max. I forget the max money there, but yeah, excellent deal for both sides. Who was it that said A-Rod would play for 10? Was it McAfee?
In my opinion, I'm not sure.
I think it was McAfee that said that because he's in tune with the Steelers and Western Pennsylvania and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, again, I'll reiterate what I said last show. I love it. I knew this was coming. I knew it was going to happen, just a matter of when. And it finally got done. He's going to be at mandatory minicamp coming up, and I'm excited to see him continue his work because he had been working out with DK Metcalf already, getting that rapport down and timing. So excited to see what A-Rod can do this year in the black and gold. He's wearing number 8, by the way. Took that from Corliss Waitman. So not going back to number 12. Partially because that was Terry Bradshaw, and I don't think Terry would let him have it. Wow, I'm shocked. No analysis on A-Rod as a former Packer.
What else is there to say about A-Rod that hasn't been said to death? I mean, this feels like a marriage out of necessity. The Steelers just needed a quarterback, and Rodgers just wanted to play. I mean, I don't think anyone in Pittsburgh was really enthralled by the idea of having Mason Rudolph being their primary starting quarterback. And I know next year's draft is a draft where you go like, oh man, a lot of good quarterbacks that the Steelers could draft, but it's like, you know how this team operates. They don't tank. They don't take off years. Like, they're gonna go 9-8 come hell or high water. Like, there's no other choice. So I mean, again, it's a marriage out of necessity. It's a 1-year deal. If you're the Steelers, I hope you're not thinking you're getting Green Bay Rodgers, because after what we saw in New York for 2 years, well, 1 year and 1
4
half
points
drive, you're not getting the same athlete, even with the arm strength. It's just not enough. I don't know. I just see another 9-8 season, maybe make the wild card, but get stomped. Same old in Pittsburgh.
No, I mean, it's definitely an upgrade. What Aaron lacks in mobility at this point in his career, he makes up for it in mental and arm strength, because he does still have an arm. So I think it'll be a good marriage. I think he's gonna really mesh well with Arthur Smith's offense, the play action and power run game there with Caleb Johnson and Jalen Warren. And unfortunately, they don't have the weapons that I would really like to have. But like I said, he has been building that rapport with DK, and I'm sure he'll love throwing to Freiermuth and Darnell Washington and Jalen Warren out of the backfield. And hopefully, they can get the young guys step up at wide receiver. Roman Wilson going into year 2. That's the hope anyways. They have veteran Robert Woods as well. And the other big name signing, Texans. They signed Browns running back Nick Chubb to a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. $5 million max value on that one. And it's I think I use interesting too much, but interesting is the correct word I want right now. I don't understand. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me. They drafted Woody Marks in the 4th round. They have Joe Mixon. What is the point of getting Nick Chubb? And they re-signed Dario Gomboale as well.
I think it's just the ceiling of Chubb is higher than all the running backs you just named. And for the contract value, I mean, he's paid just about as much as a backup running back is paid. So I think this is a low-risk signing for the Texans, giving himself another guy out of the backfield with a lot of pedigree. I think that's probably what Houston's seeing. I mean, you can get Chubb for at most $5 million. I mean, you take it. Even if he doesn't figure it out, if his injuries just have taken their toll, he's not able to find his footing. It's just 1 year. You wash your hands of it, but the upside is immense. Like, Nick Chubb is better than normal Nick Chubb is better than any running back on that roster, including Joe Mixon.
Yeah. I mean, I see the value there. I just don't know where the carries are going to come from if he is I mean, again, I don't think he's ever going to be back, and I don't understand why this happens to Georgia running backs like this. it's, it's literally the cycle of a Georgia running back in the NFL. It reminds me so much of Todd Gurley, but Sony Michel had the same issue. He got hurt in New England and was never the same with the Rams or whichever. I forget which way he went, New England or LA to New England, whatever. But yeah, I mean it's ridiculous. Huh? Why does this happen to the Georgia running backs like this? But yeah, unfortunately, I just don't see Nick Chubb being a player ever again like that. Not when he came back last year after his horrific injury and just did not look good at all, and then got hurt again. So, and one visit to note: the Saints, they hosted Jags wide receiver Gabe Davis. Think he's getting closer to signing. He visited the Steelers last week as well. So I was hoping he was going to sign with Pittsburgh because that would be an upgrade over a lot of the guys that they have right now. But same for the Saints. Gabe Davis would be better than most of the guys they have.
Yeah, probably. I think this is just get the quarterback we have starting, whoever it ends up being, just someone alive to throw to.
Someone that does not get concussed.
Please.
Sorry, Chris Olave.
Love you, Chris.
All right. Not seeing anything new. Of course, we got mandatory minicamp coming up, but let's get on with the Panthers offseason here. Losses. Running back Miles Sanders went to the Cowboys. Running back Mike Boone's a free agent. Wide receiver Velus Jones Jr. to the Saints. Tight end Ian Thomas to the Raiders. Tight end Felipe Franks to the Falcons. Defensive tackle Deshaun Williams and edge rusher to Davian Clowney. Linebacker Shaq Thompson. Linebacker Chandler Wooten. All free agents. Corner Dane Jackson to the Bills. Safety Xavier Woods to the Titans. Jordan Fuller to the Falcons. Lonnie Johnson Jr. to the Raiders. Kicker Eddie Pinheiro is a free agent. Punter Johnny Hecker went to the Titans. I think the interesting thing with the Panthers is it's a lot of names. A lot of sort of big names. The Miles Sanders deal was atrocious. Thank God they got out of that. Some of the defensive ones, I don't know why they didn't re-sign yet. I think they will eventually. Like Clowney, if Clowney continues to be a free agent, I don't think there should be any question he should be re-signing in Carolina. It doesn't make sense to me. He was still productive last year, and unless I'm sure he's ring chasing with this, but he just because no one signed him yet. So I don't know why Carolina wouldn't jump in and try to sign him. The Shaq Thompson one, I don't really understand either. I know they released him, but if they can get him back on a cheap deal, I still think he's got some play left. Those are the big two, though, that I didn't really get. Pinheiro as well. They signed Matt Wright, but I thought Pinheiro was playing pretty well for Carolina. So those would be the three that I would question.
Yeah, I mean, I see they brought guys into the same position to fill in. I can do a little spoiler here. They brought in Patrick Jones the second from Minnesota. He's a guy I really liked with Minnesota. He was a very good depth piece. He had real good flashes, especially in preseason, where a lot of Viking fans, including myself, were very intrigued to see what he could become. I think in terms of edge rush, he's a good replacement for Clowney. He's younger. I think you could get more upside out of him. And then, Christian Rosenboom from the Rams. Maybe they see more upside there compared to Shaq Thompson. But Other than that, I don't think they lost too much value on either side of the ball. I like Shaq Thompson. I like Clowney. I think Clowney has always been kind of he's a guy that a lot of people think is a bust, but he's had such a productive career. I can't even say that. Like, he's kind of like Chase Young.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sure, he was drafted high, and people put on that expectation. But if you look at his performance, it's always been adequate. But that being said, I think it's more reshuffling than anything. I have a tough time seeing letting these guys go as a loss, and who knows, maybe these guys come back after injuries. The guys currently on the roster, you never know what's going to happen in training camp. Guys get hurt. You always have a guy on speed dial. But I think the Carolina Panthers, in terms of guys they let go, I don't think they lost too much production. I know their defense. The thing is, when your defense isn't great, you can't really lose sleep over guys you lose, because if they're part of a bad defense, they're part of a bad defense. You gotta just move on.
Yeah. Well, free agency wise, they re-signed quarterback Andy Dalton, running back Raheem Blackshear. They got running back Rico Dowdle from the Cowboys, kind of flopped him for Miles Sanders, which I think was a plus. Re-signed wide receivers Adam Thielen and David Moore, tight end Tommy Tremble, offensive tackle Josh Nyman, guard Austin Corbett, guard Brady Christensen, guard Caden Mays, defense tackle Shai Tuttle. They got D tackle Tershawn Wharton from the Chiefs, D tackle Bobby Brown III from the Rams. You mentioned edge Patrick Jones II from the Vikes. Linebacker Christian Roseboom from the Rams. Corner Michael Jackson re-signed. They re-signed safety Nick Scott. Signed safety Trayvon Merrick from the Raiders. Punter Sam Martin from the Bills, and re-signed longtime long snapper J.J. Jansen for another season. I did not really enjoy most of what the Panthers did in free agency. They had a lot of money to spend, and I don't think they spent it effectively. They were in the mix for Milton Williams, and it was reported he was gonna sign, and I was all excited, and then something happened, and I guess New England offered more money, and he went to New England, so they had to pivot. And Wharton, I'm wary of, because he's similar to Milton Williams in the fact that he's never been a full-time starter. The production is there in terms of, I guess, pressure percentage and whatnot, but the three guys they got on the D line, you already talked about Jones. They have a lot to prove. I mean, Bobby Brown, I do think, has proven himself in the league so far, being a big-time run stopper, and that's what they wanted to get out of him. I do really like Roseboom. I think he's underrated. Tackling machine there. And Merrick, he's been okay. He had played well as of late in Vegas, but former high pick, and I'm not that impressed with him. I do really like the Sam Martin play after they let Hecker go to Tennessee. Martin's a veteran punter, pretty solid. But to only really get one effective player on offense in free agency, I thought was a bust. Although I did like Dowdle, although he was on the Cowboys. I do like him, but again, it didn't make sense to me because of what they had. It made more sense once they announced that Jonathan Brooks was not going to play this year. But before that, it didn't make sense when I was like, well, why? When they re-signed Blackshear already, they have Brooks, they have Chuba. It didn't make sense at the time. I like it a lot more now, though.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it just feels like Carolina's just kind of reshuffling the deck. I think they're just getting younger, too. If you look at these guys, especially on the defensive side, it looks like they just went younger. Like I mentioned with Clowney and Thompson, they were more of the veteran guys, guys like Xavier Woods, similar thing. And I think they just saw guys that were younger and went, okay, there's some upside here. If we can unlock it, we get a steal here. I think Carolina's a little cautious. I think they're looking at Bryce Young, and it's kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde thing with Bryce. It's like, okay, are we getting end of 2024 season Bryce Young that figured it out after taking over Andy Dalton and looked like he figured it out? Or is that a flash in the pan? I think this is definitely one of those off seasons where you're going to look back and go, if Bryce Young figures it out, it's like, okay, now we can really spend. Now we can trust Bryce Young. We still have a ton of cap space. We still got a ton of draft capital now that the Bryce Young trade is done. There's no moving parts anymore. Now we can really spend, and we did pretty good with the draft picks we did have. If not, you're going, okay, thank God. Okay, thank God we didn't overly invest. Now we're not cap strapped. We can move on sooner rather than later and not be forced to be in a Saints situation. I know it's not sexy on paper, but I think this is what you got to do with Bryce Young. You got to look at his third season back. Okay, like this is it. Like you got to show us that what you showed us at the end of last season is it. And we want to start investing around you. Right now, we're keeping you steady. We're bringing back a ton of your offensive weapons. We're bringing back Dalton, Blackshear, Thielen, Moore, Tremble, most of the offensive line. It's like, okay, let's see you do this again. And I think that's fine. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. Going to the draft here, they had a decent number of picks there. 8. Solid. First round wide receiver Tetero McMillan, Arizona, number 8. Back-to-back edges in the second and third. Nick Scorton, Texas A&M, 51st. Princely Uman Ole Miss, 77th. 2 fourths, running back Trevor Etienne, Georgia, go Dogs, number 114. Safety Lathan Ransom, Ohio State, 122nd. 2 fifths, D-tackle Cam Jackson from Florida, 140th. Tight end Mitchell Evans, Notre Dame, 163rd. 6th round wide receiver Jimmy Horn Jr., Colorado, 208th, and no 7th round selections. I really liked the Panthers draft. They did not fill my number one need, which I still think is a grave mistake. Corner is, I think, a big time need still. They're going to ask Michael Jackson to be the starter once again outside, opposite of J.C. Horn with Show Smith-Wade in the slot there. I love J.C. Horn. They gave him an extension this offseason. I love it. Show Smith-Wade, I think, has been a great find as a second-year player from the 5th round last year. But behind those guys, it's like, what are we doing? A Caleb Evans, Shamar Bartholomew. They signed MJ Devonshire. And then it's undrafted guys, DeTravis Broughton, Jack Henderson, Michael Reed. I've only heard of one of those guys. So I don't know what they're going to do. Like I said, I think Carolina should be in the Jair Alexander conversation because he's better than what they got. And I highly doubt they'll be in the Jalen Ramsey conversation just because I don't know. I mean, even though Ramsey doesn't have a no trade clause, but it's like you have to trade a guy to somewhere where he's going to want to play, because you trade him to somewhere where he's not going to play, where he doesn't want to play. Like, he's just going to sit out, and the team that trades for him is going to get no value. So I highly doubt Jalen Ramsey would want to play for Carolina, considering the state of their franchise right now. And so that's why I think they'd be out on him. But, yeah, I think corner was a big misstep by not drafting that position. That's why I loved Will Johnson. Obviously, we heard about the knee issue that Will Johnson ended up having. Second-round pick, finally. But they did get all the other needs. Linebacker and kicker were the only other two that they didn't get for me. And linebacker I don't really hate. It was my 5th need for them. Trevin Wallace stepping into Shaq Thompson's starting spot beside Josie Jewell in year 2 there. They signed Roseboom. He's going to be the 3rd guy They have Claudine Sherrillis and John Radigan, but not convinced on the depth there. And then obviously I mentioned kicker Matt Wright. He's been solid throughout his career. Pittsburgh a couple times, but I still think Pinheiro's better. And I thought maybe one of the kickers. We saw a couple get drafted, and I would have liked to potentially see one of those guys. I do like the guy that they got in undrafted free agency. I'm kind of hoping he wins the job. Ryan Fitzgerald out of Florida State. Really liked him. I thought he was going to get drafted potentially, but yeah. I love McMillan, though, and the edge rushers are pretty solid. Love my boy Etienne. Again, didn't understand that one. Running back room's way too loaded now. I don't see how Etienne's going to get much playing time at all unless there's injuries. Lathan Ransom's hard-hitting safety. He's going to fill in nicely on the back end there. That fills out a nice rebuild at the safety position. Cam Jackson's massive inside. He's 6'6". Going to give them some size at a position that they really, I think, are stronger at now with the free agency signings. And the offensive weapons there at the end. Mitchell Evans is a guy I like, but need more out of JT Sanders in year 2. Really high. I know we were both high on him last year and didn't do a ton in his rookie season. Jimmy Horn, he'll make the team, I think, just because of the lack of options in the top 6. But I wasn't that impressed by him at Colorado.
Yeah, I like this draft. I know we both agreed they needed some corner, stars. They need a frontline guy that they can be like, okay, you're taking the number 1 wide receiver in every team, come hell or high water. But I don't mind missing on Will Johnson. The more I read about the knee injury, the more I'm like, this guy's career is not going to last past his rookie deal. Like, I really believe that. That knee is shredded. Like, the procedure they had, like, that's not a long-term viability. They got the best wide receiver in the draft. They gave Bryce Young the vote of confidence, like, hey, we're going to get you a weapon. We're going to get you the best weapon this draft has to offer, and I think that's great. I mentioned earlier, like, they didn't go big fish hunting in the offseason for, like, offensive targets for Bryce Young, but they did give him, the best rookie wide receiver, in my opinion, and then go to the 6th round, Jimmy Horn. I think he might be a steal. His dad was great. I think he's very good. I think he's going to be a pretty good gadget wide receiver. I love the edge rushers. I love Scorden. I love Princely. I think those guys are dogs. I think that's why you can probably see why Clowney wasn't brought back. I'm a bigger fan of Etienne than people realize. I think with 2 major injuries to Brooks, I know they brought in Rico Dowell, but I think it's just a 1-year contract. It might be 2. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's 1.
Just 1. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe you're going into 2026 and you're like, okay, Brooks' career is just – it's probably over. Dowell's out of the room. I know they gave their running back a big contract. Why am I blanking on his name?
Yeah, Chuba.
Yeah, but, I mean, a Chuba or Etienne backfield in 2026 looks really good. I love Ransom. The kid hits like a ton of bricks. He's going to be that all-encompassing safety. Cam Jackson, you mentioned, tall, huge. I think he's going to be a run stuffer. Mitchell Evans, I saw a decent amount of him in Notre Dame. I'm not worried about him taking snaps away from JT Sanders. I think he's the big blocking tight end. That's his role. He's good for the 2 tight end set. No worries about him taking anything from Sanders. I think that's great. I think this team just needs more blocking ability from anyone up front. And then I mentioned Jimmy Horn. Yeah, I don't mind them skipping on kicker. I mean, you can always get an undrafted kicker. No one draft. You'll maybe see 3 kickers at most get drafted in the draft. So it really is. If you really want a kicker, you can get the top 5 kicker in the class and not have to worry about it. In terms of corner, I think more teams kind of have the mentality that guys like Brian Flores have is like, if you have a really good front seven, as long as you have adequate corners, you'll be fine. That's why it's kind of rare to see a first round corner nowadays, unless it's like, unless it's an obvious pick.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of get it. Maybe they're just like, okay, we have other needs. We got a guy like Ransom. I'd rather stock up on the trenches and then get corners elsewhere. Maybe that seems to be a more popular mentality and philosophy when it comes to defensive makeup. So maybe that's where Carolina is going with it. Overall, I like the draft. I think the Panthers did well. I think defensively they look a lot better just through the draft, and I think Horn and McMillan can be real, real good weapons down the road for Young or whoever they have at quarterback. And other guys, I think they could be solid roster players.
Yeah, Etienne, I love the player Etienne. Obviously, because he's a Georgia Bulldog, but also because I saw him at the Senior Bowl, and I thought he was the best running back by far.
Wow. Florida Panthers just scored.
Um,
Brad fucking Marchand, of course, 1 minute into the game.
Yeah, of course, man. I did not have him on my thing.
Dude, it's the Rat. How do you not have the Rat scoring?
$25 no sweat bet on ESPN Bet tonight for the Stanley Cup, and hopefully Sam Bennett got a point on that one.
He wasn't even on the ice.
Fantastic. But yeah, Etienne though, best running back I thought at the Senior Bowl. I interviewed him as well. He's a great dude, and I think he can be a 3-down guy realistically in my mind. Had some injuries at Georgia. That's really why he dropped. I think if he would not have had those injury concerns, I think he would have had a ton of production at Georgia into that, leading into that Georgia running back lineage there. So, I don't know. We'll see. I am going to go with my Carolina Panthers here. I think I'm going to go B+. It was not overly fantastic, but I think it was really solid. And at the worst, top third of the league.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I'm thinking B+ as well. I think every pick, I love their first 3 picks. I think those are really great pickups. I think Etienne's value you're not going to see in the 2025 season, but I think it's going to really start to show up starting in 2026. And guys like Mitchell Evans, Jimmy Horn, kind of the same thing. I think they're going to be the guys that need a couple seasons to really find their footing. But I think this is a very solid draft. I think they found really good depth. I think they're going to find, guys that are just sneaky good that you're going to look on years from now, like a guy like, I don't know, like I mentioned, Etienne or even Jimmy Horn. I think people are going to look back like, geez, 4th and 6th round picks for these guys. How'd they fall that far? But yeah, I really like this draft. I think this makes the team better next year, and I think this is a very good long-term draft.
Yeah, totally forgot to put on the ads here in the offseason. Hunter Renfrow coming out of retirement. Right. They also have Hunter Renfrow. So whether he makes the team, that's a question mark. And I also like some of the a couple undrafteds they got. Jacoby George out of Miami and Kobe Hudson out of UCF. Those are also guys I really like at the wide receiver position, undrafted wise. If they keep 3 quarterbacks this year, it's going to be an interesting QB3 competition. I'll just say that. The incumbent, Jack Plummer, versus undrafted Ethan Garbers. It's always interesting looking at some of these undrafted guys on the roster here. Again, I don't like the secondary, but Jared Harrison Hunt as well. Unfortunately, he's going to get cut in a numbers game on the interior D line there. But that's a solid pickup from SMU as well. And by the way, Lathan Ransom, I would like to see him play some linebacker because of the depth issues, I think, in Carolina.
Yeah. I know I say this all the time for like super athletic safeties, but like the Josh Metellus like comparison makes so much sense for him.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Carolina, you're not going to get a ton of non 1 o'clock games this year, guys. At the Jags week 1, at the Cards week 2, home against the Falcons, at the Patriots. That's tough going on the road 3 of the first 4. Home against the Dolphins and the Cowboys, at the Jets, home against the Bills, at the Packers. Got the Saints at home, at the Falcons, at the 49ers, Monday Night Football. Good Lord, Christian McCaffrey, your revenge game alert. Home against the Panthers, bye week 14. That is rough. Luckily, like you said, though, they got younger. So with a young team, you can usually sustain it physically for that long. But guys like Adam Thielen's going to be hurting by week 14, man. Playing 13 straight. At the Saints week 15, home against the Bucks, home against the Seahawks. That's on a Saturday. It's one of those flex games. That week 17 is so weird because half the games are going to be on Saturday, half the games are going to be on Sunday. Mm-hmm. At the Bucks week 18, play them 2 out of the last 3 and play 3 out of the last 4 against the division. It's going to be all right. I don't think they're going to get completely demolished. Obviously, we never know what the NFC South is going to hold. Saints are a big question mark with the QB situation. Falcons, can Michael Penix replicate his success down the stretch last year? Of course, the Bucs are going to be the Bucs. They're a pretty solid team. But the rest of the schedule, I don't think it's terrible.
I think
against the Jets because I hate Justin Fields. The Bills, obviously, that's tough. Dolphins and Patriots, I think, are a little question mark. The Cardinals, I think they're going to lose. I think that's going to be a tough start. Jags, Cardinals, and then the Rams, 49, the NFC West. That's going to be tough.
I don't know. I'm a little optimistic about them. I think they're expecting a step forward, and I could see it. I'm not saying like playoff contention, but I could see a world where this team ends with less than double-digit losses. Like I could see a world where this Carolina team ends like 8-9.
That's what I had in my mind.
Yeah, it's just, and that's a huge step forward for this squad. I think, especially if Bryce Young shows what we hope Bryce Young could be. I think 8-9 with this very young roster, a ton of cap space going into next offseason. I think that should give Carolina a ton of confidence in their young core.
Yeah, I also think it's how it looks. Are they competitive in the majority of games, even though they're losing?
Yeah, just can you avoid getting blown out?
Yeah.
Can games last longer than a half?
And are they losing because of not Bryce Young issues? Is the defense reeling its head again? Whatever. But yeah, 8-9, would be a good trajectory. You look at it, right? When they drafted, Bryce Young's rookie season, right? They went 2-15.
Yeah.
Second year, improved by 3, 5-12. So another 3-win improvement this year. You're on the cusp of the playoffs.
Yeah. I think the goal is get more than 6. More than 6, I think to me their ceiling is like 8-9. But I really do think this team is I think this team is going to surprise a lot of people. I think they're going to be competitive against good teams. I think they can pull off wins, especially on the road. I think being on the road is going to be the big one. Can this team perform in like enemy territory. But like 8-9, I feel like this Carolina squad can find it.
Well, I'm trying to get tickets, man, because they are dirt cheap.
Oh yeah,
it's like $34, man, to go see the Cowboys in Week 6.
jeez.
Yeah. So
you want dirt cheap entertainment in Carolina? Go to a Carolina Hurricanes game, dude. They like sell tickets at like almost single digits, even with them being a playoff team.
Yeah, I'm trying to go. Man. I've never been to Bank of America, so. To the Ravens. This one was a weird one when I did the losses here. QB Josh Johnson went to the Commanders. Wide receiver Deontay Johnson to the Browns. Wide receiver Nelson Aguilar is a free agent. Wide receiver Steven Sims to the Seahawks. Wide receiver Deontay Hardy is a free agent. Guard Patrick McCarry to the Jags. Guard Josh Jones to the Seahawks. D-tackle Brent Urban's a free agent. Linebacker Malik Harrison to the Steelers. Corner Tre'Davious White to the Bills. Corner Arthur Millette is a free agent. Corner Brandon Stevens to the Jets. I think the Ravens lost a ton of stuff here. And it's wild that it was like at the same position. 4 wide receivers, 2 guards, 3 corners. The corners don't hurt, I don't think, as much. They're older guys. The wide receivers really don't either, except for depth. Nelson Aguilar had been playing pretty well for the Ravens, though. McCarry's the big one, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a huge loss. I think a loss that many people probably don't realize is but big. I think losing a guy like Malik Harrison is kind of a big deal. I think the Ravens, they have pretty good top end linebackers, but their linebacker depth I'm really questionable at. I think losing a guy like Malik, especially to Pittsburgh, a division rival, I think that's a big loss.
I like it now. What they have now, I think they're 5 deep right now. They love Trenton Simpson. He's going into year 3.
Mm-hmm.
Played very well last year. Obviously, Roquan. Jake Hummel they got from the Rams. They drafted Teddy Buchanan there. And then Jay Higgins. They got him and Chandler Martin in undrafted free agency. Those 2 guys. But Jay Higgins, more specifically, they're a fantastic player out of Iowa. Ads here. The Ravens didn't do a ton this offseason, really. They re-signed most of their own guys. QB Cooper Rush, they got from the Cowboys. Re-signed fullback Patrick Ricard. Wide receiver Tylan Wallace. They got wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins from the Chiefs. Re-signed offensive tackle Ronnie Stanley. They got tackle Joe Noteboom from the Rams. Re-signed guard Ben Cleveland. Signed corner Chidobe Awuzie from the Titans. And re-signed safety Ardarius Washington, who has since gotten hurt. So he is out for a while, maybe the season.
Yeah. I like that they brought back Stanley and Cleveland. I think that those are guys you desperately need to keep around, especially when you have the big money locked up to your quarterback. You got to make sure he's healthy. I like bringing in Cooper Rush. I think what they did with the signing, and I think it's the smart way to look at it. They spent so many years with backup quarterbacks that were just basically Lamar Jackson lights.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't really do that because Lamar Jackson is such a unique player that like you can't just give his system to another quarterback, even if the quarterback kind of plays like him. When it comes to a backup quarterback, you kind of just need the bread and butter guy. That's why I like Cooper Rush. I think he's a real bread and butter. Simplify the offense if your starting quarterback is out. I like that signing. Other than that, nothing really stands out. I know they brought in DeAndre Hopkins, but what we saw in Kansas City was kind of mediocre at best. He's really on the downswing of his career.
Sir drops a lot.
I mean, that drop
in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that drop in the Super Bowl. I mean, it really, at the end, it really didn't matter with how the game ended. But it's one of those things. It's like, I'm not blown away at that signing. I think that's just more depth and just see if you can
He's
get
going to
anything
be a
out.
starter.
Yeah,
He's going to be a starter.
probably, but you're really hoping depth guys really step up, and you're really hoping Bateman and Flowers really continue to be the 1-2 wide receivers, plus your tight end as well, being that guy.
Yeah. I mean, well, they did extend Tylan Wallace for another year. So there's that, and obviously Tez Walker going into year 2 as a 4th rounder last year. I know a lot of people were high on him, me included. But yeah. I mean, Rush, he's sneakily athletic, I think, more than people know. But yeah, they had to get someone because they really, QB2 was not very good. Anytime Lamar has been out, they haven't really had a good backup since RG3, really.
Mm-hmm.
All right, to the draft here. The Ravens was funny. 5 6th-round selections.
Depth, baby.
Starting off, safety Malachi Starks, Georgia, go Dogs, 27th. Edge Mike Green, Marshall, 59th. Off tackle Emory Jones Jr., LSU, 91st. 4th round linebacker Teddy Buchanan, Cal, 129th. 5th round off tackle Carson Vincent, Alabama A&M, 141st. 5 6-rounders, like I mentioned. Corner Bilal Cone, Western Michigan, 178th. Kicker Tyler Loop, Arizona, 186th. Wide receiver LeJontay Wester, Colorado, 203rd. D tackle Anias Peebles, Virginia Tech, 210th. Corner Robert Longerbeam, Rutgers, 212th. And 1/7th guard Garrett Dellinger, LSU, 243rd. Ravens were one of the best drafts I had. They were one of the few teams that filled every single need I had, including doubling up on tackle depth, doubling up on corner depth. So I really liked this draft for Baltimore. I had guard as the number 1 need. Safety was my 4th need, but I did understand the value at getting Starks at 27. They have probably the best safety pairing now in the league. What concerns me at safety, though, with Ardarius Washington hurt, they are razor thin at safety now. Bo Braid's going to have to step up into that 4th safety spot because they really do not have. And, getting Longerbeam and Cone, I liked Longerbeam a lot out of Rutgers. I saw some of his stuff. Cone, I didn't see a ton of, but and I don't remember him too well from the Senior Bowl. But, Baltimore is always going to have solid secondary play. Usually. They did struggle last year. But the Mike Green selection, that's on par for Baltimore, a guy with character issues, but getting value at 59. Emory Jones was a steal, I think, at 91. Buchanan's a solid tackler, was a riser in the pre-draft. Vincent, one of the better FCS prospects this draft, good developmental tackle there. The Tyler Loop one, I caught some eyes with obviously the Justin Tucker situation, but he's a solid player. He's short, I believe, as far as I remember, but solid nonetheless. And another guy I really loved the value was Peebles. Worker inside, limited pass rush upside, but good run stuffer at 210. And then I mentioned Longerbeam and Dellinger, again, guard at 243rd. Saw him at the Senior Bowl. He's a pretty solid player. Did get rocked back a little bit, but just needs to anchor a little bit better, and he'll be good inside there. Yeah, I loved it. I hate it. Hate that I loved it. As a Steelers fan.
Yeah, it just felt like it really did feel like they were looking at a draft board the entire time. I went, okay, who's the most valuable pick right here? Malachi Starks, so yep, grab him. Mike Green, character issue, kind of a piece of shit off the field, but I mean, come on, look at the value there. Emory Jones, good value, And I mean, if you want to talk about just value pick, look at the 6th round alone. Like every single one of them Cone, Loop, Wester, Peebles, Longer Beam, even Dellinger if you want to go all the way to 7th. It felt like they just went, yep, value, 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 value. Like it really did feel like they went, okay, like I know we have a need here, but like, man, this guy's here. I got to get him. And I was impressed. The Ravens tend to do really good drafting. Like you always, like people always say the Ravens win a draft like the second the draft's over. They always seem to do a really good job just getting that value on paper.
Yeah. And when you look at it, their depth chart on our lads, it's wild. Like that was the issue with Baltimore, if you want to call it an issue, was depth. They had outstanding starting players. They just needed to fill in the gaps with youth, and that's exactly what they did. There's Starks is really probably going to be the only rookie starter this year, other than Tyler Loop. They list LeJohntay Wester as the starting kick returner, if you want to count that. But yeah, I mean, it's fantastic depth draft for Baltimore, and that's exactly what they needed. They needed to get more role players. So, again, I hate it. A+ though, Jimmy. That's what I'm rolling with. The best grade.
Yeah, I'm going to give him an A. The only reason I want to give him an A+, I think it's just, when your first pick is the 27th pick, you're not going to really knock it out of the park. But, I mean, a lot of very solid players. This is a team that believes in its playoff ability, and it just needed to get deeper and better across the board, and it did. Just not an A+ because, Starks is not a McMillan or a Hunter or an Abdul Carter kind of thing,
Well, they got potentially the best safety. What we thought was the best safety in the draft.
That's true. It was kind of him and Imanwari.
Yeah,
I remember that was a big conversation going into it. But again, sure it's the best safety, but also safety is like in terms of first round value, it's kind of one of those picks that isn't. It's one of those positions where like the first round value usually isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like getting the best kicker in like the 5th round. It's like, okay, like sure you got the best kicker, but it's the kicker in the draft. So yeah, I still give him solid A. I don't see superstars. I see Starks could be. I'm worried about Green's character issues could affect his play. I don't see superstars, but I see really good players. I see guys that could maybe be Pro Bowlers, maybe an All-Pro here or there, but I don't see a game breaker. But that's not what Baltimore needed. So really good draft for them.
Moving on to the schedule. At the Bills, Sunday Night Football. What a start. Home against the Browns, home against the Lions Monday night, at the Chiefs, home against the Texans, home against the Rams. Bye week 7, little bit early, but I think nicely in that I prefer 8 to 10 range, but 7's not terrible. Home against the Bears, at the Dolphins Thursday night, at the Vikings, at the Browns, home against the Jets, at the Bengals Thursday night versus the Steelers, at the Bengals versus the Patriots, at the Packers Saturday, at the Steelers. It's one of those first place schedules this year that it ain't easy.
Yeah, it does not give up after the bye week.
That end of the season is rough.
Yeah.
They got to play 4 division opponents and in Lambeau.
Yeah, and it's going to be cold. It's going to be cold, man. Like
right around New Year's.
Yeah, like after week 10, which is in a dome, every single game is outdoors. In a cold weather, like New England week 16, Packers week 17, Steelers week 18. Fuck, I need a hand warmer right now. Just thinking about it. They're going to be cold out there. Let's hope they can but they're from Baltimore, so it's not like they're not used to it.
Hey, but they are the most southern team in the AFC North, though. Just saying.
That's true.
Yeah, and even the start is not easy. Going to Buffalo week 1, I mean, that's in Buffalo week 1 is not easy. You got the Lions coming to town week 3 on a primetime standalone game. You got to go to Kansas City. You know, the Texans, a little bit worse maybe this year. Who knows? The Rams obviously are very good. The Bears should be improved. The Dolphins and the Jets I mentioned are, potential wild cards. I think the Patriots are actually that week 16 game. They got to be careful because I think people are going to forget about that game in between all those division games and the Packers. And it's like, hold on, Patriots are coming to town, guys. Week 16. You cannot sleep on them because I do think they're going to be. I think when we did the Patriots one, I think I mentioned they would be in contention right around the playoff bubble this year. So I think Week 16 is gonna matter for them. And then obviously, the Browns games are the Browns games, and no one expects the Browns to be very good this year. And your Vikings are a wild card too. So. Is that game going to be 3-0?
God, please don't give me another Raiders game.
You loved every second of that Raiders game.
Oh, I freaking love that. Dude. I loved it in between my snores.
Yeah. Alrighty. Next week, be back. Summer week 1 because I think I've used off-season week 1 twice already. Before and before the combine and then after the combine, right before the UFL season, I think. Anyways, we're going to do summer week 1 before we hit training camp in July. They'll get you your game recap, the UFL Championship game recap coming up on Monday. Of course, we'll continue to update you on all the news and nuggets around the league and college football. And also, these UFL guys should be starting to get signed soon. There's a bunch of guys that have gotten workouts so far. Our guy, Jaden Price, has also gotten a couple workouts. And by the way, I forgot to update this here. We're going to have the Bears and Vikings offseason recap. So, of course, you'll talk your NFC North jargon there. But we're going to have a UFL player on the show on Monday, guys. Jaden Price, Arlington Renegades corner, will be joining us on the show on Monday. So make sure you tune in. Do not miss him recapping the Renegades season and where he's going from here because it's only going up for him. He's getting some workouts. He'll be on a roster come training camp. I'm sure of it. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast, Instagram and X, FAA_bets on X as well. FAApodcast.com is our website. Check us out here on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. We will see y'all back on Thursday this week again. I got to leave on Friday, so we're doing Thursday show this week. We'll get you the Falcons Saints off-season recaps on Thursday.